we're rolling.
Man, it's funny. We're sitting here staring at each other. We've been doing this for a little bit now, and we've got quite a few episodes in the can. And there's just days you wake up and you're going, what do we talk about that's not toxic and crazy right now?
Right. Trying to keep it light, and
they're not letting us. The world forces are not allowing us to actually kick back and enjoy some of this stuff.
one of the things that just kind of occurred to me is when you're kind of drawing a blank as to what you want to talk about, so you refer back to our old sources that we try to go find, what's happening in the news, mainly like news and the weird,
right?
And then you find out that even they're drawing a fucking blank, or they're scratching the bottom of the barrel with stupid stuff.
I'll tell you how starved for entertainment I am. So right now we're sitting in the studio and I have the 2017 World Series on, and I'm watching Game 5. Okay.
So my equivalent to that would be last night I couldn't really find anything to watch, because I just nothing was agreeable to me, and I was like, okay, I'm in the mood for the ridiculous, so I turned freaking MacGruber on.
Man, that this is about as ridiculous as they come.
But I laughed my ass off at that because there's so much dumb shit in that movie.
So, it's funny because like Dumb and Dumber to me is one of the stupidest movies on the planet.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah, I didn't say I don't like it. Yeah. It's just that it's so stupid you can't help but watch it.
Oh, I know. You just can't look away.
And Jim Carrey's one of those guys. I'm not a big fan of his. But I really liked I liked the Ace Ventura stuff. I really had a good time with that. I enjoyed the first one.
Sure.
So yeah, I can see where, because I'll just say it, we went to a movie last night.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, we went and saw Rocket Man, okay? And Taron Egerton he's a great actor. I really liked the young guy. But it was so depressing.
Really?
It was a depressing movie for me because it was just about how terrible this young man's life was growing up. And I'm not giving a spoiler alert here, but I was like, my God, that was just terrible. It changed the entire mindset of my wife. Instead of going to the movie to be relaxed, she came home depressed.
It's like one of those things where I didn't see myself as being suicidal.
But man, this movie, the music is great. What's funny is like any other movie that you see about music, it reminds you how much good music these guys put out that you forget about over the years.
Right.
Because I can point to Elton John songs all growing up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I grew up in the 70s, so it was all these songs that were hitting. And what was interesting about the movie was the movie really brought to light the lyrics. Okay. If you sit down and you watch this movie, okay, and just put aside all the stuff he went through as a kid, because his parents were shitbags. If you watch that movie,
right,
they were pretty bad.
Yeah, if it's portrayed, with 100% accuracy, they don't.
Well, he was executive producer of the movie, so it had to be pretty true to life. Okay. And in his songwriting partner,
is this Bernie?
Bernie, true friend from beginning to end. Yeah. I tell you what, if anything that came good out of that movie, it would be the testimony of what a true friend stands next to you by you all through your life, as your train wreck hits, as you get successful, all the stuff. And that dude was there with him the whole time. I mean, they kind of gapped off, and he got away from him when he was toxic. And what's interesting, we all know Elton John's gay, but these guys weren't gay. He loved him like a brother, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Right.
And they did a good job with the story. I mean, all the terrible stuff that happened to him as a kid and an adult aside, it was actually a pretty good movie, but it was just depressing.
Sure.
The music was good. I liked how they, because the Brits, they have a different way of making a movie. They brought in theatrics to it. It could actually be a stage play. I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't turn it into a Broadway play and just call it Rocket Man, because it has every element to go there.
Who was the director?
I can't remember.
Okay. So I guess what I was thinking is maybe whoever this director was, what other projects he might.
And it might, but like I said, it was just so when you're sitting there and you're looking for movies to go see. You and I were talking about this earlier,
right?
they're laying a lot of eggs out there right now, man. And they're not good.
Well, speaking of movies, I mean, I was talking to my one of my best friends, and and he goes to the movies a lot with his kids. I mean,
right.
That's one of the one of the few things that you can do with your children, and stay all together and experience the same thing.
Well, it's almost like your front room now. We got reclining chairs.
Yeah,
you order food. Well, except for the ordering the food coming to your table thing. You got to get up and get it yourself. But yeah, they make it really easy to get a family into a theater now.
When I think I had you'd probably told me you were going to the movies or something, and I kind of got going to the movies in my head as well, because I hadn't been to the theater, and probably the last time you, me, and a couple of our other friends.
Yeah, we saw 12 Strong.
Yeah, 12
Yeah,
Strong.
we went and saw 12 Strong, yeah.
So I was thinking, hey, what else is out there that I can go take a look at? And some of the things that I started off with, Men in Black. And when I saw who they were featuring, I was like,
right. It's international, Men in Black International.
And my brain is trained to only recognize Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones as Men in Black. So anybody else in there, it's kind of like seeing the second part of a really good movie, except none of the originals.
Well, it's really hard when you take iconic actors, and they both are. I mean, Will Smith, my God, the movies he's made is just phenomenal. And Tommy Lee Jones, are you kidding me? So you take two guys like that set the bar really, really high.
Uh-huh.
Now, they brought Josh Brolin in, I think, on the third one to play a young Tommy Lee.
Uh-huh.
That dude can pull it off. So you're talking some serious legacy actors there.
Sure.
It's almost impossible for the young couple that did this one to even eclipse that, because they're still in the youth of their acting careers.
Okay.
Even though what's his last name?
Helmsworth
has made several movies. He hasn't peaked yet, and he just hasn't.
It's MIB Thor.
Yeah, MIB Thor. Right. Well, it could be. And, it's funny because, I don't know. So we're sitting there and we were looking, and they're releasing a lot of anniversary movies now, like Forrest Gump. 25 years?
25 years. Glory
30 years.
Or remaking older movies like Child's Play.
Right.
Because at first I thought the Child's Play that I was looking at, I was thinking, why are they showing all these old movies?
Right.
And it turns out that Child's Play, they had actually they had remade the movie.
Mm-hmm.
There were a few other movies that I'm kind of drawing a blank on, but they also were remakes, which, to me, in my head, it kind of goes to, has Hollywood's originality just kind of dried up, that you're going to basically go back and pull something out of the closet that you haven't worn in a long time, and you just add a few baubles here and there to make it look something new.
Kind of brings up an interesting question. Maybe it's because everybody's so uptight and tense and attacking every little thing.
Right.
That you're almost afraid to make a humorous movie because you might piss somebody off.
Right.
I mean, seriously, think about it. Now, there is a song coming out, a movie coming out called Yesterday.
Right.
It's about a guy in India, and he's a music fan.
Okay.
And he plays Beatles music. He just loves Beatles music. And he gets hit by a car while he's riding his bike, and he wakes up, and the Beatles didn't exist yet.
Oh.
And so he's singing songs, and he becomes a famous, iconic rock star singing Beatles songs.
Now that's okay. I see. That sounds that sounds kind of interesting.
I would go see that.
Yeah.
So there is some leap of creative talent out there.
Right.
I think it's funny though, because how are you going to get mad at an Indian guy playing Beatles music in a movie?
Well, yeah, because that's
so it's a great formula. It's very safe, right?
It has an international flavor to it, along with like Western.
Well, it's just like there was a movie a couple years ago called 100-Yard Journey. It was a Disney movie, and it was about a Indian family that moved to I think Paris, France, what it was. Okay. And they bought a restaurant right across the street from Helen Mirren's 3-star Michelin restaurant.
Okay.
That was a good story. It was about a family from India assimilating into French countryside, opening a world-class restaurant, and then his son ascends to greatness in the restaurant world. So, there's movies out there that, and I think it was a Disney movie, and it captures your imagination, and it's very entertaining.
Okay.
So we went and saw John Wick 3 last week.
Okay, what was your
It was horrible.
take on that?
I think I talked about this last week too. It was horrible, and I wanted it to be so good, because that movie has all the elements of movie greatness.
Okay.
The storyline is phenomenal. The Continental Club and Ian McShane and Keanu Reeves and all these great actors in this movie.
Uh-huh.
But John Wick 3 was just, to me, was like if you just went to the top of a hill and just took a can full of marbles and just rolled it down the hill.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of how I describe that movie. It was nonstop action all the way. If they'd have paused and developed a little bit more of those storylines than they did, I would have enjoyed it more. You can almost do it like a 007 movie.
Okay.
With his character, but they didn't do that. It was just run and kill, run and kill, run and kill, and it was just ridiculous. It was, I mean, you see the teaser videos of them out training, and you go, "Wow, this is really they're doing some training."
Yeah, actually, the teaser videos.
The teasers are better.
Yeah, I was going to say the teasers seem to be more entertaining than the actual movie.
Yeah, and we snuck off and saw another one too called "The Secret Life of Pets 2."
Okay.
And I gotta say, the animated movie trumped everybody. It was good. It was the story about Max and Gus, living in the city, and they go to the country to visit their cousins on the farm. And how do you beat an animated dog movie, And it was just entertaining for us. Now, I don't know if that says anything about us or about the world around us.
Well,
but,
true. I mean, one of the movies that I've been seeing showing up, as like sponsored content on all the social media platforms has been Echo in the Canyon.
I haven't seen anything on that one.
So I didn't really know what it was at first until I realized it was sort of like it would be similar to watching like the documentary on Tom Petty or the ones about the famous studios that rock groups all recorded in. I term it the name Sound City.
Right. Oh, that was good. I like that.
So, but like I was telling my buddy, I was like, I want to go see Echo in the Canyon, but music's kind of a personal thing with me.
Uh-huh.
So I would rather watch that at home in the comfort of my own home, enjoying something that I truly enjoy. I don't want to be sitting in the seats in a movie theater,
right,
watching something I truly enjoy. Then for me, that formula just didn't work.
Right.
So, but yeah, across all the movies that were offered in the theater, it was like remakes of old movies that I remember when I was younger, or these anniversaries of these movies like Glory and Forrest Gump. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I'm not going to go pay full freight for a movie I've already watched, just so I can watch it in somebody else's freaking living room, drinking their refreshments. No,
$12 Cokes and $20 popcorn. Yeah.
No, I'm actually I'm trying to go on freaking Amazon Prime and buy the Avengers Endgame, and so I can watch that from the comfort of my own freaking home.
Well, you kind of said it right there. So Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu, Tubi, anything that you're watching, all these streaming channels now are they're just killing it with offering up good movies. I was going through Tubi the other day, and I love ski movies. As a kid, I would the crazier the better.
Okay.
So not the Warren Miller type, which are my favorites, but these are comedies. And Out Cold was on the other day.
You haven't seen? Do you remember the movie Hamburger?
Oh yeah. Well, I saw Hot Dog. Hot Dog was my favorite one.
So Hamburger was the Hamburger University or whatever like that. Was
those were those were
hilarious.
Fun. Yeah, there were. The problem is you can't make those movies anymore.
No,
because people get so offended, and it's funny because I don't know. We're just sitting here, like I said, when we tried it, we try to keep this show as spontaneous as we can. I hope
lighthearted,
and lighthearted, but sometimes it doesn't because just like. Just these politicians right now, even. I mean, we're sitting here and we're watching. We're sitting here trying to put this thing together, and all these stories pop up. And what they're basically doing now is they're dining on each other.
Right.
I think
we came up with the Democratic luncheon or Democratic picnic.
The picnic. Yeah, because now we're sitting here and you can't even turn on the TV now.
Right.
Without seeing a clip of Meghan McCain and Joy Behar fighting, and Meghan calling Joy a bitch, and Joy interrupting Meghan the whole time. And,
right.
And there's something wrong when Whoopi comes in as the mother and moderates this thing down to a calm roar. I mean, you sit there and you watch that, and then you move on to that, and you get these little teasers on the bottom of everything you see.
Sure.
So you jump over and you see Ocasio-Cortez calling the border loaded with concentration camps.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, dude, if you're illegally crossing into the United States, we're going to detain you.
But when she says stuff like that, to me, that's tantamount to yelling fire in a
it
movie
is.
theater.
Yeah,
even though there's nothing going on.
It is. She just, because she doesn't like it, she's going to use catastrophic language
Sure.
to make it look like a bad deal.
Right.
And it's funny because there's pictures of those places, and if they're below capacity or close to, they're very comfortable accommodations. But when you're packing them full, nothing. It's like standing in a line at a deli,
Right.
on a Wednesday for a buy one get one free special. Okay, that line's going to be long. It's going to be long. You're going to be stacked in there. It's like buying tickets for a concert. It's like waiting for Black Friday.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's not going to be comfortable because it's flooded with people. That's just the nature of traffic flow. But she gets out there and she puts a video out sitting in her front room or wherever she's at.
Right.
In her t-shirt, talking, making faces and noises. And it's like, look, okay, I put the mic down, get your mom in the room because you're acting like a child right now.
Right.
And so we're watching this, and it's like, oh, and then you got Booker and Biden going back and forth. I'm like, really?
Yeah. Now this latest deal with Ocasio-Cortez was this Elliot Engel person. So she is the representative for I believe it's the 16th district of New York, and he is the representative for the 14th, and I may have those two backwards, but so historically anything that she has put forth in committee or has come up for a vote, according to what I read, he is voted in support of like 96% of the time. So he kind of agrees with her philosophy. Mm-hmm. Up until the point she was in support of him until he made a disparaging remark about Ilhan Omar. And then it turned into this like high school teenage girl thing.
Yeah.
It was like, you went after my freaking BFF. And so apparently, some political organization that she's associated with up in New York has gone so far as to come up with a new candidate to basically run against this Elliot Engel guy,
right,
to replace him in the seat. Now, the thing that I think is funny is that the 16th district that she represents, I believe, it's on the supposed chopping block. If they redraw the lines for New York, she would basically be out of job. Well, and I'm like, they need to fast track that shit.
They really
right?
Well, it's funny because this is playground politics at its finest.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
You sit there. I mean, we have bigger problems in this world, or this country, actually.
Right.
You're looking at, and like I said, we do our best not to go down this road, but man, this is the only road they give us sometimes. The whole name calling thing is so juvenile. Back in the day, you used to be able to have a conversation without hate politics getting in the way.
Right.
Now you're seeing basically assault politics. They're saying if we don't like what you say and what you do, we are going to find, front, and promote somebody to take you out that believes like we do.
Right.
Now, come on, man. That should be the choice of the people, not some activist group that starts funneling money into a program to do this.
Right.
Mr. Engel has his comment. He has his right to comment as much as anybody. And you have your right to disagree with it. But to outright attack and come out and openly say, hey, we don't like who you are and what you're doing, we're going to get you out of here. I mean, that's where this thing goes wrong. This whole thing goes wrong. You're supposed to have a balance of power. You're supposed to be able to represent the people. But you're not seeing that here. This little Democratic luncheon that we're being spectated to is really funny. It's like a bunch of Mongols that go out and raid and pillage villages.
It's a picnic for cannibals.
It is. When they get done after the picnic and the orgy's over, they go to war killing each other. And this is what you're seeing. And these people live like that. That's how they do. It's sad and it's funny because I'm an independent. Okay, I tend to be very conservative. I believe in the Constitution.
Right.
I'm a Jeffersonian constitutionalist by all practical definitions.
I just want you to do the right thing.
Exactly. See, that's how I am. And I'm all about business growth, commerce, protecting the borders, the Constitution, all this stuff. But when you start seeing people trying to stack a deck to clear the way for an agenda that's clearly not good for this country, it gets a little unnerving for me. And it's sad because, it's funny because we started out talking about movies and stuff like that, but the lack of creativity, it seems like, is everywhere.
Right.
And it's being stifled by this toxic agenda that's turning people that should be getting along
right
against each other. And just because we share some commonality and then we share some difference, that little difference is enough to get you crucified.
Right.
And that's a very dangerous thing to have, because that to me is no different than being a bully. It's the same thing. I'm going to bully you because I don't like what you say.
Well, like during the time there was an era where every time you turned around there was an action movie coming out. Action Jackson. Take your pick of whatever action movie is. Now with the way politics used to be conducted, and I'm not saying that the way that politics and the way politicians conducted themselves way back when was any better than well, actually, yes, I am saying that they were a little bit more. They were more civil back then.
Right.
Now
decorum, they call it. Yeah.
They may be stabbing each other in the back, but now it's turned into a downright, I'm going to put your head on a chopping block.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to announce it to everyone that I'm going to put your head on a chopping block, and I'm going to make sure there's a lot of blood.
Well, don't you think, though, that some of that comes out of, again, lack of creativity? Because if you remember back in the day, after World War II, and you had the greatest generation in the world coming back, and they were rebuilding infrastructure, they were creating new industry. I mean, we had fast food, frozen food, electronics, all these
becoming the age of convenience.
All these age of convenience things that came out of this great thought and energy that comes back. That was based on a work ethic. It was all factories were running over here. Businesses were doing really well. We weren't importing much. We were exporting a lot.
Yeah.
And then what ends up happening is we have this huge shift over the years. We get fat, dumb, and lazy. We get large companies now that are just big cash cows. We have a financial institution that's being propped up. It would have never succeeded if it wasn't propped up by the taxpayers.
Oh, yeah.
Which sometimes you got to thin the herd and you got to call the weak ones out. That doesn't mean you kill them. You just let them go off and do something else and start another venture. But no, we bail them out because of presidential preferential treatment by the president at the time. So what ends up happening now is people don't have an outlet for creativity anymore because it's so expensive and it's so controlled. What do? What we see now, they just start turning on each other and infighting.
Well,
you get a lot of that right now.
One of the things that my buddy Jeff brought up was, we were talking that actually not too long ago, it seemed like every time you turned around, depending on who you talk to, people wanted to be, famous sports player, baseball player, football player, basketball player, and then it turned into everybody wanted to be a rapper.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I would say that the rapper has been replaced by I want to be an influencer. So nobody's going to college to get a degree and of higher learning and develop their resume and their skill set to go on to something greater. It's fast tracking to something that has a lot of notoriety, puts you in the public eye all the time.
Sure.
And they think that
it's a YouTube mentality.
Exactly.
It's basically how many hits can I get. It's actually a social media thing because they see the Kardashians do this.
And I'm not saying it's an impossibility, but it doesn't work for everyone.
It's a new economy, and it funds technological growth. I get that. It's just so in wartime, when you have wartime, it's funding technology growth.
Sure.
And it's. I mean, and I hate to say this, but like the medical industry has advanced in triage care, quantum leaps because of combat casualty care. And you hate to see that that's a result of that horrible thing happening to young men and women that go do what's right, okay? And they get caught up in the turmoil of all this. But the secondary gain is what people miss all the time. And when you start looking at advancements on everything, armor for vehicles, the weight, the weapons technology, the medical, even how we feed and house and move camps in the military now is all just taking quantum leaps forward. And you have the same thing with the industrial. When we don't have a war going on, you peak. Okay, you don't have a driver like you're saying earlier about being a YouTube star or a social media star.
Right.
That's the driver. It just replaces, because people are looking for a way to break in, because you can't hardly copycat anymore now.
Right.
And it's not profitable, and it's hard to plow new ground because you either have to invent something that nobody else has done, or you have to create a market for something. You have to create that gap.
Right.
And you have to force that gap. And sometimes it takes a lot of resource to do that. But what I've seen lately is that people, instead of doing things, it's much easier to drag each other down.
Oh, yeah.
It's much easier to see the guy on the step above you and drag him down. And that's corporate culture in a nutshell. Corporate culture is not about, hey, I'm going to work hard and try to get this guy's job.
Right.
What it is I can do better than him, and I'm just going to get dirt on him and drag him down. And you see a lot of that. It's a personality. I've spent my entire career in that corporate environment, and I will tell you that as a 50-plus-year-old person, it's hard to watch that, because you know that guy that you're working with that's running up your tailpipe is there to hurt you. Well, and that's not a good thing.
Being able to devolve into your baser, primitive self is a very easy place to get to for some people.
Yeah.
And it's really easy for everybody. You just need the right motivation to get there.
That's funny you say that, because narcissism is a big word that's out there right now. And here's what's funny about the world we live in today.
Everybody has it.
Yeah, everybody does, and to some degree. But here's the difference between today and let's go back to the Old West.
Sure.
So if you were in the Old West and you were trying to backshoot somebody and he found out about it, he's going to get you before you're going to get him before he gets you.
Okay.
You can't do that today. Okay. You take a guy that's trying to get you, you go out, you wait for till he's riding home or going to the bathroom, you kill him, and then you bury him in a hole. Never heard from him again. Maybe the law will come get you. Maybe the law won't. Right?
Okay.
It's the wild, wild west. The streets of New York or streets of Chicago or streets of any of these cities that don't have law and order, that's the mentality. That's how it works up there.
Right.
You screw up, you're dead, and you disappear, and you're just a number.
Right.
Okay, so what ends up happening is that it's survival of the fittest. It's almost Lord of the Flies in many ways, right? When you get into an environment that is...
trying to remember what the character with that.
Right.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, that's right. When you get into a society that's bound by rules and laws, what ends up happening is the guy that follows the rules, the guy that uses decorum, the guy that doesn't back trail his self to defend himself is going to get swallowed up and eaten alive, because that's just the mentality, because they know there's no repercussion for that. And in some companies, that's rewarded.
Right.
They look at that as, oh man, this guy's really wanting it, so he's going to go for it. And it's like, look, people, I'm not a fan of it. I think it's a very bad thing for society. We're seeing our politicians do it. You got a guy, Biden's been in politics since he's 29 years old.
Right.
He's been a part of many failed political juggernauts.
Right.
Many, many of them. But he has profited from it extremely well. He's used his office
to stay in the game.
Yeah, well, he stayed in the game because he's politically savvy. He has people doing the killing for him. And plus, he becomes he's a for-hire guy. I mean, him and his son, he goes over on behalf of his son, negotiates a $1.something billion electronics deal overseas on our dollar.
Right.
Okay, and nobody does anything about it. The thing that aggravates me more about politics than anything is the fact that they're exempt from the same laws that we have to follow. Business and personal life. They're almost an entitled elitist group of backstabbing, moral degenerate people. And when you get somebody that has moral standing in there, dude, they pile on them like a bunch of ants.
Because the thing about, particularly with him and what his son, or at least what he set his son up to do,
right,
is, his son profited heavily from that deal. But how I look at it is I look at as the United States as a big wet rag, and he allowed his son, or made it available for his son, to basically wring that freaking rag out for personal gain.
Sure.
And I apply that principle to every other person who's been in a position, either how either by putting themselves there or by association with somebody who could get them there, who was high level in the government,
right,
and allowed them to basically fuck over every United States citizen to do that for personal gain.
What's funny is in that movie Rocket Man, there was some. If you really watch it, there's some great gems in there.
Uh-huh.
Well, Elton John sitting at a bar with a bunch of blues singers.
Okay,
and it's I forget who is Johnny something in the Apaches. Is member of the Apaches from back in the day.
Okay.
Anyway, they were sitting there, and he was Elton John was trying to figure out, how do I break into this business? How do I get big?
Is this particular scene, were they in the UK or are they in the United States?
I think they were in the United States. They were on the road in the United States.
Because I know the relation, like blues singers in the 60s and 70s, they're like royalty.
Oh, you know what? They were in Europe.
Yeah.
They were in Europe. They were doing a tour, and they were playing. He was a backup band at the time.
Okay.
So he asked them this question. He goes, "Well, dude, what you got to do is you got to kill your former self and come back as somebody new."
Okay.
Dude, that's pretty profound. So when you sit there, and if you're the kind of person that can kill yourself, divorce yourself from your family, all the things you grew up with, all the things that were special to you,
that made you you,
and you come back as the new reinvented you, you've just described how a politician can do it.
Sure.
Okay, when you throw the fact that there's millions of dollars, potentially billions of dollars in power and influence at your fingertips,
right,
and then people will willingly do the bidding for you just so they can be near you. A lot of people sell their soul like that, and you see that happening in politics today. It used to be Mr. Smith goes to Washington, where the average person was a part of government. It's not the case anymore.
Right.
And it's sad because, like I said, I'm going to keep apologizing for it and saying it again, but when we do this podcast, we really try not to go down this road. But
right,
it seems like the vein and just the circulation of society today just drives you in that area. And it's sad because, art does imitate life, or life does imitate art, vice versa. It can go either way. But when you start making connections with like how these people can do it, well, it's really easy. They just kill their former self. They're not that person anymore. They get reinvented by media, marketing, political handlers, whatever it is. It's just like actors and stuff like that. You see an actor that was a cute little kid, and the ones that survive it do really well, but the ones that don't, they crash and burn or usually kill themselves,
right,
or they're derelicts. Because it takes a very special person to be able to do that to themselves and to all of them around them. You like to see the stories like Mark Wahlberg. When you look at his stories, I was never a fan of him when he was a musician, but I'm quite a fan of him now as a producer, director, and a creative entity.
Yeah.
Because his work ethic is phenomenal. But look at all. I'd love to hear the real story of what he had to go through to get there.
And I would say the counter to Mark Wahlberg would be, I know I'm going to butcher it, but you remember Willis from Different Strokes? Todd
Bridges.
Bridges.
Oh yeah, he went the other way.
Oh my God. Yeah. Everything he tried, it just went to shit.
Yeah.
So,
well, they say with child actors, it's kind of like they call it the Max Baer syndrome. Jethro from Beverly Hillbillies.
Okay.
So, very successful run on Beverly Hillbillies, but after the Hillbillies is over, every time he went on a screen test, everybody looked at him as Jethro Bodine. And you got to know that has to suck.
Sure.
Now I think he had the most control over that because you're only in a pigeonhole if people put you in a pigeonhole. He just got tired of fighting and gave up and started becoming the victim. Because every time you saw an interview with him, he'd piss and moan and whine
true.
and sue and be a contrarian. And, and that's tough because sometimes the will is hard to find.
Right.
And you look at guys like, you look at River Phoenix and some of these other actors and that Heath Ledger is one of them. Turn to drugs.
Oh yeah.
Turn to narcotics.
It was like pain medicine.
Yeah, and it's like that just to me that just exposes a hole in your soul somewhere, and either that or he just reached a point to where I either took too much and made a mistake, or I just didn't give a shit. Some of these guys they can't find that edge. They keep stepping over that line and stepping over that line. And it's a shame that politicians, and I know I'm going to get dinged for this, but it's a shame politicians don't follow that same vein sometimes.
Sure.
I mean, We need a culling of these people. These guys understand. They're kind of like dinosaurs. They know that if they avoid the meteors, they're going to live on this planet forever.
Well, now with the way that the makeup of the party is for, with progressives, is
pardon me.
Everybody has now everybody's on the menu.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't fall in lockstep with the way the younger generation or the younger politician thinks, they're going to find some little thread that they can start pulling at.
Sure.
With Biden in this segregation comment and working with.
Oh, they don't want the old white guy. I can tell you right now, they don't want the old white guy out there.
And the term.
I actually don't want him either.
Is but the term an avowed racist, and the thing is that term alone is, I don't know what metric you're applying to. Okay, now number one is racism period,
right?
Is I'm not saying is what you need to do, but it seems to me that every generation that comes along
redefines it.
The metric that you use to define it changes. But the thing is that list seems to get shorter and shorter now.
Sure.
Now you just need to look at somebody wrong, and then suddenly you're labeled this.
Yeah, they determine just by how they feel your look is that you're doing this or doing that. Not your behavior at that point, where it could be like we talked about the other day about this pizza joint, this local pizza joint here in town. It's like because you were accused, you therefore are going to be approached as if you're guilty.
Sure.
Didn't get both sides of the story until the family released the tape, and you could see the videotape of the security camera of how it actually went down.
Right.
But is there a retraction or apology? No.
No.
See, if it was me, I'd sue the living crap out of that news station, or I'd make their life so impossible by tying them up in some kind of litigious event that they would almost have to do something about it. That's part of the problem. We let a lot of this go because we don't want to get any on us. Nobody wants to be drawn into it.
Sure.
Oh, you're one of them, and the mob mentality. It reminds me of World War Z, how everybody just, pile on, and they just do. And it's like, it's unfortunate that, you can't wake up and enjoy your day with something positive, something funny.
You're always on the defensive.